Hello again and welcome everyone. We are so excited that you are here today. We are excited for this event. We are excited that you have honored us with your presence, and we ask that you feel free to be engaged, to be able to be a great hearer of the information that we're going to be learned. We're very honored to have some of our guests here that is going to be presenting. And without further ado, we are going to turn this part of our event over to Miki, and Miki will take us further in our programming. Miki, thank you so much for being here tonight. And I now yield it to you.
Thank you very much. So welcome everyone. We're excited to have you here tonight. And thank you to IT Motives for sponsoring tonight's event. So let's go ahead and get started. PDX WIT has events all over Portland and beyond. And we want to take a moment to acknowledge our Indigenous Oregonians, as well as the history and legacy of racism and settler colonialism. PDX WIT recognizes that the ongoing violence, trauma, and erasure of Indigenous communities is part of settler colonialist structures, and we are actively fighting against it. Portland is located on the stolen land and traditional village sites of the Multnomah, Cathlamet, Clackamas, Chinook, Tualatin, Calpuya, Molalla, and many other tribes who made their homes along the Columbia River. We endeavor to have this be more than just words. The tech industry is building the future of our world, and it is up to us to ensure that it is a future for all. To find out more about how we are supporting the future of Indigenous communities, please visit us at pdxwit.org land acknowledgement. Thank you all. Thank you all for being here today, and we are grateful for the support. So, who am I? I'm Miki Demeter. I'm one of the board members here at PDX WIT. I've been a board member since 2019. I am currently retired. I just retired from Intel after 16 years of being a security researcher. So anyway, that's enough about me. I really want to move along and talk about PDX WIT's mission, which is to build a better tech industry by creating access, dismantling inequities, fueling belonging, and events like this are the way that we advance our mission. And you can learn more about how to work and how to get involved, as well as how to support us at pdxwit.org. So, our accessibility sponsors, I want to thank Autodesk. Our ASL providers, Purple Communications, so Autodesk, AWS, Cat Freight and Dynamics, Avenue, Cambia, First Tech, Nike, Matrix, Vanderhouen, NV5 Geospatial, Littler, and Ogletree Deacons. And we couldn't do work without our sponsors. Thanks to our executive platinum and gold sponsors. Yes. Visit our PDX WIT events page. Oh, our agenda slide. Today's agenda. We're going through the welcome and announcements right now. We've gone a little bit through, I'm going to go over how you can help support PDX WIT. We have our lightning speakers that will start around 5:50, and around 6:30 p.m. we'll start networking. The event ends tonight at about 7 p.m. So, our upcoming events on October 11th, LGBTQ+ in tech, a two-spirit experience, virtual. It's a virtual sponsored by Paradigm. On October 17th, Portland Women in Tech and IAPP present October Happy Hour, remaining human in the time of big data and big tech and AI. So if you want to read more about these, you can visit our events page for more information and registration details. So PDX-WIT is always looking for more volunteers and mentors. We also want you to send your feedback. So as you exit tonight's Zoom, you'll be presented with a post-event survey. We'd really, really appreciate it if you would take a few minutes to complete it. Everyone who completes the survey tonight will be entered into a drawing to win $25 e-gift card. So our PDX-WIT community members are pleased to provide you opportunities to support our continued efforts. And so how to support PDX-WIT? I'm going to turn this over right now to Shauna Levy. Shauna?
Thank you, Miki. Appreciate it. It's nice to have you as our MC tonight. Thank you. I'm Shauna Levy. I'm the Operations and Events Manager over at PDX-WIT. I've been a volunteer for a long time before that. So it's really an organization that I enjoy. We want to talk to you a little bit about a couple different ways that you can support PDX-WIT. We don't often, or we haven't in the past anyway, come and asked our members for money. But you know, fundraising right now is a little tough. So we want to consider two different options. We want you to consider two different options. One is to become part of our Pay It Forward campaign. This enables us, it goes into our general fund. And if you'd like, you can actually choose where you want it to go, but we tend to like it in the general fund so we can put it where the need is the greatest, help support programming fees, speaker honorariums, and operating expenses for our organizations. If you consider what we do in a year, we're on track to do between 30 and 32 events this year. That's a lot. Those are in person and virtual. We've done and we'll have more community collaborations with Dress for Success, Blacks in Tech PDX, Saturday Academy, Mesa, Oregon, TAO, the National Society for Black Engineers, Free Geek, and the Warm Springs Tribal Nation. Pretty proud of having all that diversity in our collaborations this year. Our program is going to continue to evolve as we go into the new year. We want to really start bringing more programming on AI and privacy. As we all know, those are two big fields up and coming, and we hope to see you at some of those events in 2024. We also will use the general fund money to support our mentor program. This year, we've matched 110 folks. So that's mentees to mentor. And we currently have 5 mentees waiting and 3 mentors available. With your help, we can continue to provide these events for free, as well as fulfilling our mission of helping to create a better tech industry by providing access to tech, dismantling inequities, and fueling belonging. To donate, actually, you can scan that QR code right there, or you can visit our donation page, which is www.pdxwit.org/giving. Next slide, please. Our next opportunity for giving is our Sustaining PDX-WIT Scholarship Giving Circle. We host 2 Investing in You scholarship rounds annually, one in the fall and one in the spring. We're actually kind of in the middle of one right now for the fall. And we work to invest vital funds back into the community through skill building, development, and leveling up of those in our community. Since 2018, we've served 80 individuals. In today's economic landscape and dwindling budgets, we are not able to have this funded by a sponsor. And so that's why we're asking you to help us now. We'd love for you to consider becoming a sustaining donor of $100 a month to help keep the scholarship fund alive. As our community grows, we hope you will help us keep our mission alive to donate by either the scholarship fund or the Pay It Forward fund so that we can continue to impact the lives of the communities we're focused on, including those at the intersections of race, class, gender, sexuality, and ability. Again, please visit our website to learn more, www.pdxwit.org/scholarship-fund champion. Thank you, Roger, for posting all those links in the chat for those of you who didn't quickly write what I said. With that, I'll turn it back to Miki. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Shauna, for sharing all of those wonderful opportunities. So tonight's happy hour is being sponsored by the generous folks over at IT Motives. And here to tell us a little bit more about IT Motives is Liesl Coates, Senior Technical Recruiter. Liesl?
Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. So first, a little bit about myself. I had the pleasure of being able to raise our sons for about 15 years. And then around 2008, 2009, was going to go back to school to get my master's to teach. And with the economy, the shape of the economy back then, I had to make a detour and get right into the workforce. And I actually got into retail management. Can't say that it was my passion. So in 2021, I made it my way over to IT Motives and I found my passion. I'm just so happy to be here. I have a confession, secret little confession to make, everyone. I'm just a little bit surprisingly nervous. And I just find that ironic because when I was asked to join this event, I said, sure, because I really appreciate and want to support PDX WIT. They are a wonderful organization. However, when I was told that I actually have a title host, that sounded so official and important. It was intimidating, and I just want to do a good job because I love my company, IT Motives, who is hosting this as myself representing them. And so that's important. So who is IT Motives anyway? We're a staffing agency in the tech field here. And we work with companies and candidates, mostly in the Portland area in the Northwest, but all across the nation. And everything from help desk people to C-level individuals. And then Tony Seminary is our CEO and founder of the company. He began it in 2008 and has built it in the past 15 years to a thriving company, which I'm really proud of. Tony Seminary is very knowledgeable and because he's been in the tech community for over 25 years. But beyond that, he is just a really wonderful person and the absolutely best boss that I've ever had. So why are we wonderful? Why do I find in IT Motives wanting to represent them well? Well, it's because our values align with PDX WIT. We highly value diversity, equity, and inclusion. In fact, Tony Seminary is Native American, and then 50% of our team are women, and that's just a really cool thing. Besides that, we value the qualities of collaboration, integrity, and passion. And that's significant. I know those just sound like character traits, but a lot of companies, staffing companies I've heard really are competitive, but my team is very collaborative. We care about each other, support each other, and we cheer each other on. And I believe that brings a high quality to the people that we help because of that kind of a standpoint. Overarching all of this, though, is the value that we have in relationship. And it's not just relationship for now, it's relationship for long term along the way. And it's really about knowing people as human beings, not just a piece of paper or a LinkedIn profile. And that's why I love my work. That's why I love IT Motives, because I love people. I love hearing their stories. I love the opportunity to be able to help them in their journey. And it's just what I'm all about. So what do we do? As I said, we're staffing, but how do we do that? We help people with resumes, with whether it's editing, whether it's reviewing them and actually seeing what we can do to change things to make them more highlighted, and their LinkedIn profiles. I actually just helped somebody today with their LinkedIn profile. and to kind of make them stand out better for recruiters like myself or hiring managers, and so that they can get better attention in their search. We work with brainstorming with our candidates, networking, like this event is all about networking. Then if we actually have a job to present for them, we write kind of like a cover letter for them about who they are to represent to the companies that we have. And then if they get a interview, we help them all along the way of the job process. We help them prep, we practice with them, do whatever they need to get through successfully through all of the interview process. And then once they land that job, we don't just abandon them. We continue along the way and check in with them and see if there's anything that they need, and help them along the way. So that being said, I am really excited to talk with you in the breakout session and talk about some of the jobs that we have that might be interesting to you, and seeing what more I can do to help. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Liesl. I really appreciate that. We appreciate all the support that we receive from IT Motives again. And again, everyone, please see the chat for contact information, www.itmotives.com. Now, let's hear from our lightning speakers. First up is Cinthia Manuel. Cinthia is an equity, diversity, and inclusion and leadership development consultant, facilitator, strategist, coach, TEDx speaker, and a mentor to women of color. She is a first-generation Latina immigrant from Mexico City, bilingual, Spanish and English, and bicultural. She is the CEO and founder of Autentica Consulting, and is a proud Latinapreneur. And we are excited to learn more from Cinthia. Cinthia?
Thank you so much, Miki, for that introduction. Hi, everybody. I am so excited to be here with all of you this afternoon. So can we go to the next slide, please? And I'm going to be, I was asked to speak with all of you about the digital divide and the need for culturally inclusive technology. So this topic is really close to my heart because I consider myself part of the Latino, Latine, Hispanic, Mexican community. That's another topic. But I want to just touch on a few things at a very high level. I have about 10 minutes with all of you. So I want to make sure that I just maybe spark some curiosity and just what I'm going to share with you today. But before we get started, I want to share just a little bit more about me. And so if we can go to the next slide, because sometimes we feel like, well, who is this person that's talking to us, right? Can we trust him? And just learn a little bit beyond the professional, background that is shared. So born and raised in Mexico City. That's me when I was about 3 years old. The little person here with the bowl cut. I have a beautiful family. So it's my parents and my sister. They mean the world to me. And they have made so many sacrifices for me to be here in front of you today, and for me to be able to do the work that I do every single day as well. My parents, or my family, is very strongly founded in ensuring that we keep living our traditions. So when I turned 15, I had this huge party called Quinceañera, where I got to dress like a princess and really enjoy my family, friends, and celebrate this big day for me. And I am a lifelong learner. I love to learn. If I'm not studying something, I was intrigued by research or conversations. So that's one of the things that I really, really enjoy. And then this is the last picture. It's just me with a cake when I turned 3 years old for my company. I just turned 4 this month, so I have to update my picture, but it's something that I'm very proud of. Again, really something that it took a whole community for me to be able to be here today. All right, thank you so much. All right, so now let's dive into the topic of the digital divide. So the digital divide is the gap between demographics and areas when it comes to accessing internet, computers, education, and also language. So one of the things that I wanted to touch on this topic and 3 different sections: 1 technology, 1 language, and 1 education. Again, this is from my perspective, right through the Latino, Latinx, Hispanic, Mexican kind of lens. All right, if we can go to the next slide, please. Like I said, I love data. So whenever I can share that, I will. So when it comes to technology, we have, oh, I think maybe did I skip a slide? Can we go back to 1, please? I think, oh. Thank you for sticking with me on this. Well, as this slide gets here, so when it comes to technology, right, some of the areas that I'm gonna be looking at is limited access to high-speed internet. That's one of the big things when it comes to the digital divide, and especially that was something that really emerged through the pandemic. And also the lack of personal computers, right? A lot of, especially individuals in the community, won't invest in computers if they also don't have access to the internet. And that depends on, it could be demographics, it could be also areas where they live in. And because of that, there's a high level, it's okay, you can leave it there. Because of that, there's a high level of cell phone deficiency or smartphone dependency, right? Because also, again, if there's very limited access to internet, there's not that many computers available. Sometimes individuals or community members can't rely on their cell phones so much to be able to communicate with one another, to get access to information. And then also, there's a lot of financial constraints, right, when it comes to technology and acquiring technology. Who has access to purchase what, whether it's an iPad, whether it is a computer, whether it's a phone, whether it's to actually pay for internet and the speeds of internet that you can actually afford to pay. So even though sometimes we have access to technology, it is not equitable across the board. So like I said, I like to share some data. So I have this information from 2021, couldn't find anything more recent, but I figured it still gives you a really good overview. So we're gonna take a look at the left-hand side graph first. When it comes to 3 demographic groups, so white, Black, and Hispanic. And when we look at the accessibility that these groups have, according to the Pew Research in 2021, when it came to desktop and laptop computers, Hispanics among white Blacks were actually the group with the lowest out of the 3 access to a desktop or laptop computer. When it came to home broadband, it also was pretty similar as well. But when it came to smartphones, like I said, there's a smartphone dependency, right? And again, it can actually be attributed to many factors. But one of the main things is because, again, access to technology. So when you're looking at the data for smartphones, it's pretty equal across those demographic groups. Now, when we're talking about a tablet computer, right? It still is pretty similar across the board as well, because in some cases it is a little bit more accessible than a computer. But when it comes to all the above, Hispanics tend to be the group with at least the least amount of access amongst these 3 groups when it comes to technology. Now, if we take a look at actual levels of income, there's also very similar in terms of what do they have access to, right? So when we look at the smartphone side of things, if you make Pew Research put this data together that households with less than $30,000 in income it's still pretty high up there, but it still is the group out of the groups that make more than 30,000 or more than 100,000 is the group that has less access to a smartphone. When it comes to desktop and laptops, that gap becomes even bigger. The individuals that make less than $30,000 fall drastically behind. When it comes to broadband, the internet is pretty similar as well, right? And then you can make a correlation, like maybe people might say, hey, I don't need access to internet if I can even afford a computer. I have my smartphone, I'm paying for internet on my phone already. Tablet computer is pretty similar. And so again, when it comes to all the above and you're just looking just at income, if you make less than $30,000 or the income of the family is less than $30,000, the technology becomes less and less accessible. Next. The other area that I want to look through the digital divide is through language. We have language barriers and limited digital literacy. Next. So more data. Now, when we look at the Spanish or Hispanic population across the United States, it's important to notice that California and Texas are the big winners when it comes to where the majority of Hispanics are located at. But this map gives you a pretty good overview of where, where the next bubble of Hispanics are across the country. So we're sitting between California and Washington, which California definitely has a lot more than Oregon, but Washington has a slightly more Hispanics or Latinos than Oregon does. However, we're sandwiched in between. And we also, if we take a look at, especially the group of farm workers, they tend to travel across the 3 states all the time, right, for work most of the time. So if we start looking at how is language, like what is the need for language when it comes to even just the west side of the country, it is pretty high. And if we start thinking about how are the websites of the companies that you're working at, how are the services that you're offering, are those services even available and in any other language aside from English? The other data that I want to show you really quick was here, when it comes to Latinos across the board, US-born Latinos are less likely to speak Spanish than English. And foreign-born Latinos are most likely to speak Spanish than English. However, at the same time, the need for those two, English and Spanish and Spanglish, is very high amongst the population. Next. Okay. All right. Well, we'll go to the next one. The next one was education. So education, their online education challenges, their healthcare disparities, limited civic engagement. And the data that I was just going to show you really quick is when it comes to healthcare, individuals, again, and it correlates to language, right, that are US born or proficient in English, do know sometimes it doesn't matter to them whether or not they get a provider that's bilingual. They're okay with somebody who speaks English, but those that are foreign born rather have somebody who speaks, and then you can go to the next slide, rather have somebody who speaks Spanish. And what that does, because there's a limited number of providers who speak Spanish, then they tend to rely on a friend or a family member to be the ones that are the interpreters. I can attest to that. To this day, I'm still an interpreter for my parents when it comes to anything healthcare. And I don't have a lot of tools sometimes where I can get information to be able to provide to my parents about it. Now, the other thing too that I wanted to mention really briefly is when it comes to civic engagement, this digital divide, it affects a lot because there's also no information or ways to provide information that is reliable to communities to be able to stand up for what they believe, to be able to get educated enough for them to go out and vote or register to vote. And one of the things that the graph that is showing you here on the screen is actually sharing with you that there is when you think about Hispanics across the United States, 50%, at least 50% of the Hispanics across the United States are too young to vote. But then the question I want to ask is, how are we providing, again, resources and education to those individuals to be able to get educated enough to be able to advocate for themselves? Next. And next. So what can we do? So when it comes to technology, language, and education, there's a lot of things you can do. One, language accessibility, right? Are there apps? Is your website translated? Financial inclusion. Are there fintech companies, right, that can provide lower banking fees, that can provide a better banking experience and education? Economic empowerment. When it comes to economic empowerment, again, how are we educating individuals about wealth building? Accessibility challenges, right? It's still, even today, that's not a priority across the board, especially when it comes to digital media. Assistive technology is not accessible to everybody still. On their language, right? We have very limited language apps that are available to the community. Cultural representation. again, there's a lot of information now on the internet. There's a lot of information through companies, but not many of them are culturally relevant. And then when it comes to education, healthcare access, telehealth, right? To minimize some of the barriers for individuals to be able to get to the doctor, telehealth is still not available to many individuals today. And if it is available, it's not very compatible through a smartphone. Educational resources, again, what are the things that organizations or nonprofits are doing today to be able to engage individuals or provide them with that information? Community engagement, right? How are we getting the word out about advocacy and different languages, not just Spanish? And digital literacy programs. How are companies, again, investing in funds and resources to go out to communities and say, not only are we going to teach you how to utilize a computer, but we're also going to be able to gift you a computer for you to use and access to the internet, whether that's through a hotspot or a lower a plan for the internet. And so with all this, this can happen, right? But it can only happen if we have Hispanics, Latinos, Latinx, Latinx voices in the room across the board. Otherwise, these efforts are still gonna come short. Next, and then this is my last slide. So how do we do this? Through backwards mentoring. And what does that mean? A lot of the times we focus so much on preparing the mentors to be able to serve the mentees, but very few times are we actually preparing the mentees to know how to navigate a mentoring relationship. So we're actually not giving them autonomy to ask for the support they need to be able to navigate the industries, positions, companies, different groups where their voices are needed. So I'll be speaking more about backwards mentoring, but thank you so much. I really appreciate your time, and I am really, really excited for you to keep just asking questions about some of the information I share. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cinthia. I mean, you gave us so much food for thought there and in such a very short period of time. I mean, showing us, that the digital divide isn't getting any better and that we actually need to be doing much, much better. And that, the fact I never would have thought that more and more families are speaking less and less Spanish. That would never have even come across, my thoughts. But also the fact that, we need to do better at accessibility for not only tech and language and education, but also for all of the other things that, healthcare, economic empowerment, all of that we need to do much better at. And we absolutely need much more and much better cultural representation everywhere. So, I mean, I really want to thank you so much for that really thoughtful lightning talk. That was absolutely excellent. So anyway, next up, we have Hector Dominguez, Open Data Privacy and Surveillance Technology Coordinator for the City of Portland. That's really a mouthful. Thank you very much, Hector, and we'll give it over to you.
All right. Well, thank you so much for the introductions, and this is a great way to start because I think that the presentation that I have prepared is really a report back from some of the work that we have been doing around developing, implementing really the surveillance technologies policy that the City of Portland passed early this year in February. So that includes developing a citywide inventory of all the surveillance technologies, but also exploring how the community is, the public, the Portlanders in general, can participate in this process of deciding what type of technology is the right one for themselves in their neighborhoods, and what type of and how that technology should be managed. So we are on doing that work, and we are starting with the surveillance technologies policy. Next, please. Yeah, that's just the next one. So data, right? If you have been in one of my previous talks, I like to start with some of these maps. just to provide some context to the conversation, right? So where we are, who we are, really. These maps have been developed by a number of people, put together by a number of people, some of them within the city, some of them in collaboration with academic institutions. Some of them come from census data. You can see in the top, on the left top, there is this gentrification and displacement risk analysis, where the darkest regions are actually the most likely to be displaced or gentrified. You can see there is a big concentration on the east side of town. You can obviously see that North Portland, so those areas in purple and blue, they are already gentrified, they're already displaced. So those were actually 10 years ago, those were actually high risk, and now they're gone. So it's completely different. The bottom one on the left, you can see an economic vulnerability analysis that the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability does. Similar thing, you can see the darkest areas are the ones with more economic burden in those families, those neighborhoods. And you also see and recognize that the east side of Portland is the one who is suffering the most. The bottom right is actually a diversity score. The greenest, the more diverse the neighborhoods. You can see, how these maps overlap with each other. And finally, the top one is actually, well, the original one is an animation. I just shared a PDF, which is a static file, but the animation actually shows how the heat dome in 2021 here in Portland, that's literally a heat map, was distributed in different parts of town. And it's not surprising to see that the same locations, when they're more diverse, more economic burden, were the hottest ones during the heat dome. I live on the east side of town, and here we were, while at the airport we're 117, which is 17 degrees, which is a lot, obviously, right? In our neighborhoods here, we were 122, 125 degrees for 3 days, right? 50 people died, at least 50 people died. And those are things that we can actually prevent. Next one. Then I wanted to bring the story of where we are coming from, right? So Portland is being, portrayed in media and many other places as the widest city in the US, which it is true. This is actually the evolution of the census data in like different demographics distribution of ethnicity, right? The gray one is the white population, while because we are celebrating the Latinx Month and Heritage. The blue one is the Latinx layer that we have, the percentage. So from 1980 to the last one, which is in 2020, you can see how this rainbow is actually spreading. So Portland is getting more and more diverse. Latinx population is the one growing the most. And we need also to recognize that there is a lot of history with farm workers coming here to the Pacific Northwest. And many of those families are staying here and building their history, growing roots here in the Pacific Northwest. Our community, just another reminder for everyone, right? Our communities are not monolithic. We have different roots, Afro-Latinos, indigenous families. As a matter of fact, other than Spanish, Latinx is actually including Portuguese, also Brazilians, but indigenous languages like Mixtec, Zapotec, or Maya Quiche are very common here in the Pacific Northwest. Next one, please. These graphs, these plots actually show the latest census data in terms of age distribution. it's very interesting to see that the oldest population, the 65 or older, you can see on the right side, the white population is 81%, while the rest is 90%, right? But the youngest is actually also quite diverse in a sense, and this younger generation, as they are growing, getting older, building families, they are going to change completely the face of Portland. And, you know, this is something that we need to prepare as a city, as a local government, just to provide the right services to those who live here. Next, please. So this raises the question, right? How are we building the future of Portland, particularly in tech, right? Next, please. And that's why this work that we are doing on surveillance technologies, privacy, digital rights, we believe is really relevant to all these. Without having the proper information and data, without implementing and getting the benefits of responsible technologies, we won't get there, right? We are not going to be able to face these different crises that we are living right now. The climate change, housing crisis, economic crisis, public health, mental health, name it, right? Cultural, sometimes. So we need to trust not only, obviously, not only each other, but also we need to trust the tools that we are using day to day. Next, please. And that includes artificial intelligence. And one of the questions that we are answering or trying to answer properly is how an anti-racist technology looks like, including artificial intelligence, right? So what are the measures that we need to put in place? How we should regulate that technology, and how we should invest our talents on that technology. We believe that it's also through a lens of digital rights, digital justice, which is really this implementation of human rights in the digital world. Equity definitely is a tool that we are using day to day. And we hope that through equity, we can actually get to that goal where everybody can access similar things to everything that we have available. Next, please. So we have, at least in our program, we are trying to approach the communities with this equity lens. We have a program, internal program, which we call Community Leads. The community leads, we are paying as a consultants, community leaders who are helping us to define how technology should work, also how we should engage with all these different communities in Portland. You can see the faces of the cohort from last year, and we have Joanna Valdez, who's an Afro-Latina, Surya, who works for IRCO, Rosalie Lee, and Onisha, and you see all these different faces. So all of these people are helping us to figure things out, or at least last year, and they now become our advisors, and they are connected to the local community in a different way. Next, please. And with that, we don't want to also claim that we are this change, but rather we are just part of this ecosystem, right? So we're just playing a role of that. This is the report back, right? We started, we were asking to our communities, the Portlanders, how we should build a surveillance technologies inventory, what type of information we should be putting there. So that's a work that we're analyzing right now, but at least as an early results, I can tell you who answered the survey. And the top left plot, you can see a distribution of different demographics that mimic pretty much the demographics of the city of Portland. Most of the people who responded were white, but also a lot of people responding this survey were Latinx of Hispanic heritage, Asian, and Black or African American. You can see there the distribution, and this is only for the English version. We also have a version in Spanish as well. In terms of gender, women were the ones who responded the most to this survey. So it is important to recognize that usually women are the ones who are very engaged and working on this. Men, for some reason, are less. The bottom graphs, when you see how we are just showing our shortcomings for the survey. So it was a survey online, and you can see that most of the people who responded these were middle to high income people. So we have a very strong shortcoming to low income folks. So this is something that we need to improve. We are open to suggestions, but the main thing is to go where they are, to use different, I mean, that's something that we already know, and we're trying to get the funds to support the work, right? To use alternative ways to approach to these communities, not only online, but going to where they are. Something that we found actually was the question about how aware are you about what surveillance technologies are, what digital rights or digital justice, and most of the people know or feel that they know very little. So that tells us that we need to do a lot better job on digital literacy and informing Portlanders. What are we talking when we're talking about digital rights, digital justice, right? Finally, you can just see a word cloud with the answers where people typed in with comments and suggestions. So that's the most frequent words. Data, technology, information, CD, access, cost, responsible, public. It's a first layer of analysis. So currently we are doing the next more deeper layer of analysis. Next, please. Finally, I just want to share, and I'm over time, apologies for that, our fall and winter plans. We're basically are going to start in fall some community public events around this idea of how we should do oversight and effective public participation. For next year, we are actually going to start working on artificial intelligence and how to use that technology responsibly. So please stay in touch. And with that, thank you so much for the time, and thank you so much for letting me join today. The last slide is just my contact information, and you will have access to all that. Thank you.
Hector, I want to thank you so much for all that information. That was absolutely amazing. I mean, number one, everybody knows we are the whitest city, but it's nice to see that the younger generation is actually becoming more diverse and helping to drive some diversity into the Portland area. It's also interesting to know that there is not just one Latinx community, that it is also very diverse in and of itself. And you know, some of the other points that you brought up, you know, about, you know, what are the best ways to deal with surveillance tech, racist AI, and, you know, digital rights management, and the fact that we need to do better in our communities to bring about better digital literacy. But it's also really nice to see that women are taking a much larger part and in participating and in our communities, but also the fact that I think we see this across the board in many things is that we need much more participation from the lower income communities. So I really want to thank you for bringing all of that forward. That was really great information. I hope everyone enjoyed it as much as I did. And I want to thank you again to both of our lightning speakers for sharing their expertise, their passion. And if you'd like to chat with them more, you can join them in the networking breakout room after the main event. And as we prepare to move into our breakout rooms, and would like to offer networking tips. You know, so you can network with intention, you know, reach out to people, you know, have a purpose for what you want to do. You know, practice your career statement. That's a good one. You know, the what do you do one sentence version, you know, that your elevator pitch basically, right? And exchange your information. I mean, it never hurts to exchange information with each other. You may not use it right away, but in the future, something may come up where you go, oh, I met somebody who knows all about that, right? And be sure to ask questions. And I mean, I can't tell you, you know, I ask questions throughout my entire career. And by asking questions, you may get answers that you never really thought of, right? And be sure to follow up a plan to reach out to your new connections that you make.